What's good, YouTube? It's Butter and it Joe, man. Today, we back with another reaction, man. Today we got a good one for the channel. I know y'all gonna enjoy this. But this that Tiny Rascal Gang versus Asian Boys, Crips, and the SEA Alliance, California's most deadly street war. Now, I did a smaller documentary on them, but I didn't get a very in-depth story, you know? So we came to do this, Joan. This just came out a couple days ago too, so this probably gonna be good. But with that being said, if you're new to the channel, even if you're not, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'm done talking.
8 months pregnant and delivering a bowl of soup to her husband, Naruch became an innocent victim of a gang war.
So maybe 45 seconds after we headed outside, someone started firing.
Long Beach police arrested 12 people in connection with a mass shooting at a Halloween party.
A man jumped over the fence and then says that I'm gonna come back and kill all of you.
3 men were killed and 9 others were injured, including Jasmine.
The bullet hit me in my neck, and it went through my body, and it came out the opposite side of my back, and that's
Yep, that was definitely like a Drake or a K or something like that.
how my spinal cord became damaged.
Were called to the 1600 block of Anaheim Street around 9:30 last night when gunfire erupted. Officers found one of them dead inside the store. The other died at the hospital.
I thought that we escaped from the Khmer. We came to this country. We thought, well, this is a safe place to live. Not anymore.
Long Beach is the birthplace of 2 of the most prominent Asian gangs in a modern era of gangbang, the Tiny Rascal Gang and the Asian Boys Crips. These 2 gangs, they actually start off as one, but internal issues split them up and caused one of the most bloody wars in not only Long Beach, but in the whole state of California. From the 1990s up until today, there have been several deadly situations involving these 2 gangs.
Bro, I forgot that they was together at one point.
The most recent one involving a mass shooting in Long Beach, California.
At approximately 10:45 this evening, officers responded to a residence in the 2700 block of East 7th Street regarding reports of a shooting incident. Upon officers' arrival, they located multiple victims, both inside and outside the residence. There were 3 victims who were determined deceased at the scene. 9 victims have been transported to
Dang, they hit
hospitals
12
with
people.
various injuries, including gunshot wounds sustained.
Who did
The
this?
suspect has fled the area.
It was one person?
The suspect
He switched the whole crowd.
fled on foot or in a vehicle.
On October 29th of 2019, Daniel Chan was throwing a party at his house on the 2700 block of East 7th Street in the Rose Park area of Long Beach, California. Initially, everything was going as planned. The early partygoers greeted each other, took some shots, and prepared for a good night of enjoying each other's company. But everything started to go south, starting with an altercation Daniel had with the masked man at the entrance of his house. Once approached, the man says, "Be ready to die tonight." Daniel, who grew up in the area and understood how deadly the city can get, grows concerned for his friend's safety. So instead of standing in the backyard where the party was originally supposed to take place, he moves the partygoers inside the house and prepares to call the police. As all this was going on, Daniel's dad, Wu Chan, left the party to visit his daughter to attend a ceremony for her father-in-law who had recently passed away. After paying his respects, Wu heads back to his house. And when he returned, he was greeted by the sight of horror and chaos. Sadly, Daniel, he never made that phone call to the police.
What?
Because of that, several people lost their lives. After Daniel moves the guests back into the house, they continue with the party, assuming that the masked man that threatened them was just pulling a Halloween prank. But they were dead wrong. As more partygoers show up, Daniel decides to take the party back outside. And within minutes of them being in the backyard, at around 10:45 p.m., several masked men jumped the fence and let off multiple shots at the group, hitting 12 people in total, and sadly killing Maurice Poe Jr., Melvin Williams, and Ricardo Torres.
Dang. Ain't no way they was beefing with all them. Them gotta be innocent hats.
They arrived at the scene within a minute of the shooting, but at that point, the suspects were long gone. The police, they took statements from all the surviving victims and the partygoers, retrieved surveillance from the houses and stores in the surrounding areas, and immediately started their investigation. And while the start of their investigation was quick, it took months to finally figure out what played out that night.
So far, there have been no arrests, and there really is limited information about the suspect. Investigators just say he was wearing dark clothing, had his face covered, and got away in a dark-colored vehicle. The police chief does say he doesn't believe the shooting was random.
But by September of 2020, the detectives made several arrests of the suspects they believe were involved in this mass shooting. It was found that the masked man was actually Jeremy Penn, a known member of the Tiny Rascals gang, a deadly gang rooted in Long Beach, who approached Daniel at the start of the party. And the threat he made, it was no Halloween prank. He meant every word he said and planned the deadly shooting from start to finish. After Jeremy's altercation with Daniel, he gathered 7 other Tiny Rascals, or TRG gang members, who eventually end up in an alley right behind Daniel's house. This wasn't just a random shooting though. The TRG members thought they were targeting members at an Asian boy's cribs. That same day, Timmy, who was a co-worker of Daniel, met up with TRG member Jeremy Penn, who he was close friends with. And the two ate lunch at a noodle house near Anaheim Street and Raymond Avenue. And after 2 ate, they discussed their plans for the rest of the day. And Timmy mentions the party that would go on that night and invited Jeremy to attend the party with him. But Jeremy, he quickly refuses, saying that he didn't like Daniel after seeing a video of him dissing the TRGs. So Timmy
so he was dissing them. Oh, okay.
leaves the topic alone, and the two continue their meal. But later that night, while Timmy was at the party, Jeremy calls him and tells him to go inside, but he didn't mention why. So concerned about his safety and his friends at the party, he lets Daniel know about the warning. But still, 20 minutes later, the party moves back outside and the deadly shooting takes place.
Long Beach police arrested 12 people in connection with a mass shooting at a Halloween party last year. 3 men died and 9 people were injured. Police say they believe it was a pre-planned attack targeting a party of rival gang members. Investigators say 8 people rode in 3 SUVs from North Long Beach to the home on 7th Street. 3 of them started shooting from an alley into a crowd of 25 to 30 people gathered in the backyard of a home.
Oh, if they would have got flicked by 12, oh, they was not getting away.
During the trial, several witnesses and victims came forward. Nicole Vasquez, one of the 9 survivors wounded in the shooting, spoke directly to the TRG members at the sentencing hearing. She described the pain she suffered that night, saying she'd been afraid to go to her own backyard for over a year.
Dang.
Vasquez said she prepared to speak.
They ain't beating that case. They finna get the chair, what they be saying, they finna get the book, something like that.
But when she saw the gang members casually smiling in court, she threw out her remarks and decided to speak from the heart, saying, "Y'all out here smiling. I'm happy too." While also mentioning, "I'm happy we're going to get justice." Ultimately, Jeremy Penn, David Long, Ryan Sim, Kaylin Thicke, and Grant Johnson were convicted of 3 counts of murder and 9 counts of attempted murder. And at their sentencing hearing, the judge said they showed no remorse for their crime, saying,
Bro, it's crazy because it looked like all them really don't care. They really on that. Except for this one right here. But shoot, he was with it, so I can't say nothing.
"I don't think you feel the gravity of what you did. And for that, I'm speechless, I suppose." Also saying the killings were cowardly and a fatal act of violence carried out for a gang that quite frankly very few people have heard of. And after her remarks, she sentenced the man to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
We were all work friends.
Dang, they said y'all ain't got no wreck though. That's crazy.
And we worked together. And so I can't imagine why anyone would want to hurt any of those people. Whoever was responsible of this should have to face the consequences.
Definitely rest in peace to Melvin Williams II, Ricardo Torres, and Maurice Poe Jr. While these two had no ties to any gangs, they still sadly became more casualties in a deadly war between the TRGs, the Asian Boy Crips, and the C Alliance, which is composed of several gangs, including the Asian Boy Crips, the Exotic Family City Crips, the Suicidal Town Crips, and the Sons of Samoa Crips. In this war,
so it's deeper than I thought it was. Okay. I didn't know it was 4 different sets.
Has been going on for several decades at this point.
Every time we shoot cane, this shit gotta hit you. And we don't fuck with apples, bitch, we only see gray. Put the scope on the chop, bullets hit from long range. Got that A up on us hot, the bitch, we aiming for your brain.
This rivalry is by far one of the most intense in Long Beach, and it's claimed more than a few lives on both sides. Truth be told, a lot of these casualties hardly get reported on when it comes to this deadly war. But one situation that made headlines in Long Beach and beyond played out in 2017.
I heard the news that somebody got shot inside here.
Mikey Bunthung says he's heartbroken after learning his son, 21-year-old Danny Bunthung, and his friend, 22-year-old Dallas Sum, were gunned down at this liquor store in Long Beach. Police were called to the 1600 block of Anaheim Street around 9:30 last night when gunfire erupted. Officers found one of them dead inside the store. The other died at the hospital.
On October 10th of 2017, Dallas Sum, Danny Bunthung, and 2 other C members were hanging out near the S&R liquor store on Walnut and Anaheim Street in Long Beach, California. And while in front, TRG member Morris, also known as rapper Trouble G, and Savannah Soap, who had on gray and black, the colors of the Tiny Rascals, casually walks into the store. The C members, they immediately take notice and start to bang on the TRG member. This interaction quickly escalates to an argument, followed by a fight breaking out inside the store.
What do bang on that mean? Just throw up y'all gang signs? Like, what is that? Or they just like woof into each other or something like that?
The C members, they immediately take notice and start to bang on the TRG member. This interaction quickly escalates to an argument, followed by a fight breaking out inside the store. Dallas Sum was a member of the Exotic Family City Crips, and Danny Bunthung was a member of the Asian Boys Crips. And at this point, we know that TRGs are in a deadly war with these 2 gangs. Well, deadly is exactly what played out. During the fight, Trouble G gets his glasses knocked off by C members, followed by Soak fighting members. But in the midst of that, Trouble G goes back to his car to retrieve a gun. And once back into the store, he lets off multiple shots at Danny and Dallas, killing Danny at the scene and fatally wounding Dallas, who ends up dying at the hospital and injuring 2 other gang members. After the shooting, the TRG members get into a waiting getaway car and speed away from the liquor store. Surveillance captured the whole situation, and detectives retrieved the glasses knocked off of Trouble G, which had his DNA on it. This shooting made the...
Wait, what had his... Oh, the glasses had his DNA on it? Is that what he said? Hold on. Let me go back.
Detectives retrieved the glasses knocked off of Trouble G, which had his DNA on it. This
That's
shooting
crazy.
made the news and sent the 2 TRG members on a run.
Relatives left candles, flowers, and food, a small memorial for the young men. They say Bunthung has a 3-year-old son, and Sam's girlfriend is pregnant.
Morris was on the run until October 26th of that year. The police spotted him on 59th and Walnut. They tried to pull him over, but Morris speeds away from the cops and goes on a high-speed chase from the north side of Long Beach to the east side, up until he crashes into a vehicle in Atlantic at PCH. On top of that, the murder weapon was found at his residence. And Soap was caught the following month. And in the end, Morris, who was a shooter, was sentenced to 80 years in life. And Soap was sentenced to 8 years in prison. This situation only highlights the intense hatred these guys have for each other. The crazy and honestly sad thing about this deadly war is that Danny Bunthung's death was the second casualty in his family due to this rivalry. His older brother, Woodsy Bunthung, was also killed in a set-up murder by the TRGs more than a decade before his death, when a TRG member known as Flamer went on a killing spree against the Asian Boy Crips and members of the C Alliance.
Bro, it sounds like TRG really getting active. Hold on, though. I'm gonna wait and see.
We're definitely going to address later in the video. But before we can address that situation, we have to get into a deadly case that played out more than 10 years before this one.
8 months pregnant and delivering a bowl of soup to her husband, Naruch, became an innocent victim of a gang war.
In early January of 2006, so-called Young, a member of the Asian Boys Crips, was in a rage after fellow gang member Ko Sam was jumped and assaulted by members of the TRG. In retaliation for this assault, several Asian Boy Crip members executed drive-by shootings in the TRG's territory. The TRGs immediately responded with a drive-by shooting directed at Sam's parents' house. A couple days after these interactions, Young borrowed a .45 caliber semi-automatic handgun from fellow Asian Boy Crip member Victor Alvarez. But this gun was more than about protection. Young was angry, and he wanted revenge. He just didn't know how far he was willing to go to get it. On January 31st of 2006, Young and fellow Asian Boys Crip members Masinga, Chia, Som, Sopak, Kenya Chinita, Jose Perez, Perkins, and a few other gang members met up. After meeting, the gang discussed the need to retaliate for the death of fellow gang member Alina Monk, who had been killed a year earlier by TRG. Young still had the .45 he borrowed, but some and other Asian Boy Crip members left to get more guns, later returning with an AK-47 and ammunition obtained from the other Asian Boy Crip members. As Chia racked up the AK-47, Young told the group that if they were going to do something, do it smart, implying that they were going on a mission but needed to be prepared for what could possibly play out. Young, who was a shot caller, and had been from the gang for a long time, seen that the Asian Boy Crip members were jumped and tried to call up the mission, but it was too late. Eventually, the Asian Boy Crip members grabbed the guns and left to do the shooting. And Sega then drove to Easter Bay Elementary School in Fresno, California, and parked on the street by a nearby apartment known to be a TRG hangout. Chia and Perez got out of the car as Masinga and Chang stayed behind and were told to wait and look out for potential enemies or the police. After that, Masinga heard numerous gunshots, followed by Chia and Perez running back to the car and Masinga speeding away from the scene. On the other end of the shooting,
He did that drill with the K?
young women were in the parking lot of an apartment complex. At first, the night was going as usual. The girls joked with each other, gossiped, and discussed the due date of Neth Ouch, who was 8 months pregnant. But the night turned deadly as 2 men approached the lot, armed with guns, and let off multiple shots at the group of girls. Neth Ouch, she ran towards the entrance of her house, but while running, she was shot in the back, and sadly, her and the baby died from her wounds.
Wow.
Police arrived at the scene a couple minutes after the shooting, and an investigation was quickly initiated. At the scene, a large number of bullets and spent cases were found on the ground. They were traced back to the AK-47 and the .45 caliber handgun that the Asian Boy Crip members used during the shooting. In addition, there was bullet damage to the signs and the cars near the site, consistent with weapons being fired from the direction of the school. And the .45 caliber handgun ultimately was discovered by police under the seat of Alvarez's truck. Eventually, the shooters were caught and interrogated by detectives. And during that interview, Masinga became angry and told the detectives, "F that pregnant Rhodes bitch. She got..."
Oh my God, bro. That's crazy, bro. I can't lie. You know, you supposed to spare the ladies, bro. Unless they set you up. But other than that...
Oh, she deserved. Roaches is a derogatory term referred to TRG members. Ouch was not a gang member, but she was the wife of a TRG member who ironically was implicated in the murder of Asian Boy Crip members Arlene and Monk, who was mentioned earlier. Aside from Masinga's arrest, the other Asian Boys members went on the run. But eventually, Jan turned himself in Denver, Colorado, and Chia was arrested in St. Paul, Minnesota. And during the trial, Alvarez testified for a plea agreement, according to which he entered a plea of guilty and accessory after the fact in exchange for his testimony. Sam and the other 3 Asian Boy Crip members also negotiated a plea agreement. They entered pleas of guilty to voluntary manslaughter in exchange for their testimony. And Perez remained a fugitive at the time of trial. In the end, Jan was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms of life without the possibility of parole. Definitely rest in peace to Neth Ouch and her unborn baby. She was caught in one of the most deadliest wars in California. These killings took place more than 300 miles away from Long Beach, the birthplace of both gangs, and it shows how far this hatred for each other is spread. And I ain't gonna lie, when I read these cases, it's usually 1 or 2 snitches in these cases. This one had at least 5, man, maybe more. I lost track of that shit, but I digress. This is only one of many deadly cases when it comes to these gangs. These killings occurred in Long Beach all the way up to Fresno, but there's more than a few other intense situations that played out if we venture even more up north in California. For example, in the late night of February 20th of 2005, several members of the Tiny Rascal gang returned to the Stockton home of member Chang Hong after attending a party. Anik Pratt, an older member of the TRG, was among the gang members who arrived at Hong's house. They sat around in the garage playing video games and talking. And while talking, they discussed doing a drive-by shooting and catching somebody slipping, meaning to go out and look for unprotected rival gang members who are out in the streets. After about an hour of these conversations, Pratt said, "Let's roll." And they gang members left Hong's house in 2 vehicles. Pratt drove his silver minivan and Hong followed, driving his green Camaro. A little after midnight, on the morning of February 21st, Pratt and Hong drove their cars to the Astor Drive area of North Stockton, an area claimed by the Asian Streetwalkers, the enemy gang of the TRGs. Pratt and Hong drove past Nak Sok, a known member of the ASW, who was on a bicycle headed home. And upon seeing him, Pratt and Hong made U-turns and came back to stop near Sok. And once close enough, Pratt asked Sok, "Where you from?" And Sok responds to Asian Streetwalkers. And once he says that, several men from the van and the car get out immediately and let off multiple shots, killing Sok instantly. A witness saw several of these men fire guns numerous times at Sok until he lay motionless on the ground, saying the men then calmly got back into their vehicles and cruised away slowly.
That's crazy, bro. That is crazy.
But that was just the beginning of the spree. About a
The
half
spree?
hour
Oh, wow.
past midnight, Stockton police officers responded to a report of a shooting on Astor Drive. When they arrived, they found Soap laying dead in the line next to his bicep. He had been shot in the neck, head, and the groin. 6 .40 caliber shell cases were found.
Chad, he said 40, by the way. 40 shells. 6 .40 shells.
5 in the middle of the street and 1 on the sidewalk next to the bike. In addition, there were bullet holes found in several carports and houses surrounding the area. But Pratt and the TRGs wasn't done yet. While the cops were investigating that shooting, Pratt drove his van to Jill Circle, another area in North Stockton. The Jill Circle area is known to be a frequent hangout for the Loketown Crips and the Asian Boy Crips, who are also enemies of the TRGs. Sitcha Orr, a Loketown Crip gang member, saw a van later identified as Pratt's drive slowly down the street. After that, Orr saw the van slider door open, revealing TRG member Rachida Ping holding a gun, followed by sparks coming from the area near the sliding door. And after the van drives off, he sees Sovian Young, a documented member of the Asian Boy Crip members who he had been talking to earlier down the street, shot on the ground. Young was shot in his hand.
Bro, what? Y'all can't say TRG not spinning.
Resulting in a crushed finger that had to be amputated and a scrotum, an injury that required him to learn to walk again. And down the line, the detectives found the cartridge cases from the Jill scene, as well as the Asher Drive, were determined to have been fired from the same gun. The police investigation led them to Hong and several of the TRG members.
Bro, it's no way. He can't be telling the whole story. Because they up like 4-0 right now. Or like 4-1, I mean.
But eventually identified Pratt as the driver of the van involved in both of the shootings. And in the end, Pratt was sentenced to a state prison to life without the possibility of parole. Once again, this case shows how deadly this hatred is spread throughout California. And trust, this is only one of many cases that I found in the northern and the central part of California. But to fully understand why this rivalry is so prominent today, we have to go back to Long Beach, particularly in 2003, when Asian Boy Crips member Richie Bongtong and Suicidal Town Crip member Daniel Chanta was murdered. Let's get into it. Shannon Cole was in his Long Beach apartment on Raymond Avenue on the night of November 26, 2003, preparing a Thanksgiving meal for the next day's celebration with his family. He lived in an apartment with his wife, Letitia Aguilera, 2 young children, and his sister, Sawana. Earlier that evening, they had went grocery shopping, and while at the market, they saw a neighborhood acquaintance, Willie Davis, also shopping. They talked for a bit and eventually parted ways. But later that night, he was told somebody was at his door. Cole looked outside through the blinds and saw Davis and Roy Hobart standing at the front door.
Oh, shit.
Cole knew Hobart.
Go get the strap.
Hobart as a member of the TRGs, which is primarily an Asian street gang, although Hobart was an African American. And knowing the 2 men, Cole opened the door and asked what they wanted. And after that, Davis and Hobart said, "You know what the fuck is up?" Pulled out handguns. Herbert drew a small machine gun resembling a Tech 9 from his sweater and pointed it at Cole's head.
I know that's not the Fortnite one, but if I was him, I would have started blowing through the door.
Cole then pushes the weapon away, but Hobart fires and a bullet struck Cole in the chest.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And as Cole tried to disarm Herbert, Davis repeatedly shot him in the back. After that, Cole tried to retreat to his apartment, but Herbert followed him inside as he continued to shoot at him. And while this was happening, Aguilera shot out that she was calling the police, so Herbert and Davis fled the scene. An ambulance then took the unconscious Cole to the hospital, where he was treated for 7 gunshot wounds to his chest, shoulder, and lower
survived?
back, and released on New Year's Eve. Aguilera recalled hearing a knock at the door, and when she asked who it was, the person said it's Tone. Being suspicious of the late-night visit, Aguilera told him that her husband was asleep, but the person said to wake him up because it was an emergency. Cole then went to the door himself after Aguilera relayed the message, saying that right after that she heard gunshots. Also during her interview, Shawana remembers seeing Dylan and his friend, Baby D, at the Food for Less parking lot when she was there with Cole, and Aguilera before the shooting. She also identified Herbert as one of the shooters who ran inside the apartment in pursuit of Cole, saying the other shooter was Baby D. Officer Adrian Garcia was assigned to the Long Beach Police Department's gang enforcement section. At the time of the shooting, he had known Cole for approximately 13 years and got along well with him. In the early hours of November 27th, he questioned Cole in the hospital. Cole told the officer that one of the shooters was a Crip called Baby D, and the other was an African American from TRG.
Oh, don't tell me he was on that though. He in there telling now.
So, officers responding to the scene of the shooting found 2 expended 9mm casings in the walkway of Cole's apartment and 2 .45 expended caliber cases nearby. This is when the story gets a lot more complicated. Because during an investigation of a separate Long Beach shooting scene, that same evening at around 11:39 p.m., detectives discovered 6 suspended 9mm casings and 6 .45 expended cases traced back to the same 2 firearms.
No
9mm
way.
Mac 11 and a .45 caliber semi-automatic gun.
Bro.
The former had been identified by Cole as the one Herbert used to shoot him. These 2 shootings, they weren't random. They were planned out by members of the TRG. In addition to another shooting that played out the following month. Tony Cameron was an active member of the Suicidals, as was his
TRG too active in the streets. I can't even lie. They too active in the streets.
cousin Daniel Chantha. And on December 19th, 2003, at approximately 3 p.m., Cameron visited Chantha in a garage at Chantha's apartment, which opened to an alley. Hours later, they went to the alley to smoke cigarettes. And as they smoked, an African-American man approached them and asked them what they were doing. They said nothing, just smoking a cigarette. After the male banged on them or asked where they were from, they admitted being from the Suicidals, and the male said he was from Insane Crip, a gang that wasn't enemies with the Suicidals. The male then asked Chantha if he smoked marijuana, and he said he did. So the African-American male said he would smoke Chantha out as he walked away. And thinking none of that situation, Chantha and Cameron returned to the garage. Lord Tack, Chantha's girlfriend, arrived at the garage at around 6 p.m. with their brother. Cameron was still there. And a few hours later, the brother and Cameron left to the mall, leaving Tack and Chantha, who watched DVDs in the garage. And at around 9 p.m., Chantha went outside to smoke a cigarette. Tack then heard someone knock on the garage door. She peeked outside and saw Chantha next to the security gate talking to an African-American male who wore a black jacket. The male said, "Do you remember me from earlier?" So assuming nothing of the situation, Tack went back to sit down on the couch. But before she could sit down, she heard several gunshots, followed by somebody moaning in pain. So she called 911. When the police arrived, Chantha was found dead in an alley with multiple gunshot wounds. He had received a gunshot wound to the forehead, left shoulder, right chest, right abdomen, right elbow, right wrist, left and right thighs, and a right leg and knee. 4 expended caliber casings and 1 .38 caliber bullet, along with 1 9mm casings, were found nearby.
Oh, so it was more than one person on this drill then, because that's 3 different guns already.
The 9mm casings found at the scene was fired from the same Mac 11 handgun responsible for the 9mm casings found at the scene of Cole's shooting and the other shootings that occurred that night. In addition, the records showed that 4 walkie-talkie communications between Herbert's cell phone and another member of TRG's, Ron Mo, in the hour and 30 minutes leading up to Chantha's shooting, which occurred at around 9:20 p.m. Romo lived with his 3 brothers in Long Beach. Their residence was a TRG hangout in 2003 and in 2004. Herbert and Romo were part of the same TRG club. In addition, there were several witnesses to these shootings. Alfredo Sanchez's apartment overlooked the alley. As he walked from the garage through the alley on his way to his second-floor apartment, he heard yelling, and upon entering his apartment, he heard 4 or 5 gunshots. Sanchez then runs to his room, turns off his lights, and looked into the alley. He then saw 2 males running down the alley towards 10th Street. They stopped at a parking lot and then drove away in a dark Honda. In addition, Roberta Bernandez, who lived near the corner of 11th Street and Lime in Long Beach, California, heard 4 shots as well. She peeked out her front door and saw a bluish green Honda Accord driving eastbound on 11th Street towards Lime, where it turned left. And during her interview, she identified a photograph of a Honda owned by Romo's brother.
Bro, it's too many witnesses in every single one of these cases. It's too many witnesses, bro. Somebody always identifying somebody or pointing something out. What is they doing?
It's been the same make, model, and color as the car she observed. And while an investigation was active, TRG member Herbert was still on his deadly spree. In December of 2003, Navy Lay was Woodsy Bungtung's girlfriend and a mother.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, I'm tired of hearing about stuff from 2003 and 2005. Bro, I'm trying to see what's going on now.
They're a 3-year-old child. They lived on Olive Avenue on the east side of Long Beach. At around 9 p.m. on December 4th of that year, her and Bongtung were standing in front of their residence, right in front of their black Integra, and they heard several gunshots. They ducked for cover, and thankfully nobody was hit. This shooting definitely gave Lay and Bongtung a scare, but nothing else followed. But a few weeks later, the 2 went out on Christmas Eve, returning home in the early morning hours. After going inside the chains, they went back outside to close the front gate and saw a green Honda stopped in front of her with its lights turned off. While walking back to their residence, she saw 2 men, one next to the Honda's passenger side and the other in the middle of the street. The former had a light complexion and the latter was dark. The recent shooting had made her anxious and vigilant, so she turned and jumped over the wall next to a resident. Looking over the wall, she saw the dark-skinned male run towards her house and reach into his waistband. And at that point, she screamed at Bangtan to look out. Spooked by the yelling, the two men then get back in the car and drove off. And the two stayed inside their house for a while before Bangtan left to take his friend home. But shortly after he went outside, they heard gunshots as Bangtan and his friend came running back into the residence. Bangtan had avoided death twice, but on December 31st of 2023, between 2 and 3:30 p.m., a 9-year-old was playing with a friend on the sidewalk of Rose in Long Beach, California. And while playing, he saw gunfire from two black cars with tinted windows driving on opposite directions as they passed each other. The car that drove northbound had turned left on 14th Street after the shooting was a black Honda. In addition, Pablo Zepeda, who lived in a nearby apartment at the time of the December 31st shooting, told the officers that he was standing on the sidewalk at the corner when he saw Bangtan's black Integra drive past at such a high velocity that it bottomed out on a small dip. And upon turning westbound, it lost control.
Bro, they doing drills on all these old cars too. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with that. Y'all doing what y'all doing, but bro, every car I seen old as hell.
Struck another vehicle. In that crashed car, Bangtan was found dead. The car crashed into a parked car in front of 1515 East 14th Street. The driver's side window was completely shattered and his seat was covered in broken glass. On the front of the passenger floor door was a .22 caliber gun, covered by a sweatshirt with the safety still engaged. Bangtan had received a fatal gunshot wound to his chest. The nature of the wound indicated that the bullet, a .44 caliber projectile, had first struck the window before striking the victim. One of Ramon's brothers, Sharif's son, lived in an apartment on Gaviota.
So he got caught by a straight bullet?
December 2003. A March 11, 2004 search of that residence uncovered a small caliber handgun magazine inside a box in the boy's bedroom. A PlayStation box filled with several rounds of ammunition that matched the same caliber as the ones from the past shootings were found in the bedroom closet. Some then told the police that those items were owned by Ron Mo, who kept them in Sum's room. He also told the detectives that he also seen Mo put a black .38 caliber semi-automatic handgun in a shoebox stored in Sum's room. The 5 .38 caliber casings and the expended bullets from the December 4th shooting at Bangtan's residence were fired from the same firearm. In addition, they matched the .38 caliber casings and the bullets from the Tampa shooting. Eventually, Ron Mo was arrested on December 28th of 2003. The police recovered his cell phone the next day. The phone had a walkie-talkie mode. The service provider's records showed that calls were placed from that phone to TRG members from December 18th to January 4th of 2004. But once again, this spree still wasn't over with. On January 1st of 2004, just before noon...
Bro, it's like I can't even keep up, bro. The story talk about this person, then it came from... It just went from 2003 to 2004. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I'm getting lost. Trying to keep up, though.
James Simon was driving northbound on Alamedos near 14th Street in Long Beach, California, and he heard at least 4 gunshots. Simon then saw 2 young males jogging towards 14th Street. One was African American and the other was Asian. Sergeant Patrick Burns, who was responding to the shooting, was driving down 15th Street in Orange when he saw a silver Honda stopped at the intersection, facing southbound on Orange at a stop sign. Its headlights were on, the engine was running, and the radio was playing. Sakorn's fam, an Associated Asian Boy Crips, was in the front driver's seat, and he had been shot several times. Emergency personnel arrived and started treating Fam, but he suffered 3 gunshot wounds to the chest and shoulder, one of which proved to be fatal. Officers examined the car after Fam was taken to the hospital, and they found 3 bullet holes in the driver's door. There were 2 bullet holes in the interior of the driver's side, and a bullet struck the driver's seat. Both the driver and the passenger's side windows had been smashed, leaving glass fragments inside the car. In addition, there were 4 bullets found inside the car, including one on the passenger side of the floorboard. The 2 expended bullets removed from Fahn's body and the 4 from the shooting scene were fired from 2 different weapons. 5 of them were fired from the .44 caliber Smith & Wesson projectiles. The others were Charter Arms .44 caliber special projectiles. With that,
they got flavors with the polls, I ain't gonna lie. But nah, bro, I would not have expected TRG to be out here booing like that. Like, now it makes sense because it's a lot of click ups against them, but they hooping though.
That being said, a bullet from the Bangtan shooting, along with 2 bullets from the Fahn scene, and one from his autopsy had been fired from the same firearm later recovered from Herbert. In the end, Herbert was found guilty of the murders and was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Definitely rest in peace to Daniel Chantha, Woodsy Bungtung, and Sokon Fan. They fell
But they trash at doing drills though. Everybody getting caught.
Victim to a deadly war that was playing out in the city. Long Beach was a complete war zone throughout the 1990s and early 2000s. And their story definitely paints a harsh picture of the reality these young men have to face. Look, I know they were gang members, but damn, nigga, multiple shootings with each nearly claiming your life, set up murders, in-car shootouts, and broad daylight, and some next-level hatred against your enemy. But you already see the theme of this video. This was and still is one of the most deadly wars in California. And that was a prime example of it. Man, Herbert, also known as Flamer, was definitely flaming shit. But my question is, what caused him to go on this deadly spree? I mean, to catch 3 bodies and almost take another man's life tells me he was looking for revenge. So if there's anybody tapped in the streets, y'all let me know in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. So far we've been going for the most recent events all the way back into the past. But this shit right here I had to say for last. Now, I said this story in my Sea Alliance video. We're addressing the overall war between these two gangs, so I had to add this one again. And let me warn the ones that haven't seen my last video, it gets graphic and includes a rape. So if this might be too much of a topic for you, I suggest you click away. But definitely give this video a like. Make sure you subscribe before you click off.
In prison, crimes against children are the most despised.
Even though I didn't do those things that they said I did, you know, it's still a crime involving a child. And then you got a lot of people around here who just don't like things like that.
Hissamino Prince Telly and HL were cellmates at the California State Prison in Los Angeles County and Lancaster. On February 27th of 2008, HL was reading when Telly suddenly hit him in the face, knocking him unconscious. When HL regained consciousness, he was naked, blindfolded, and his hands were tied behind his back with bed sheets. Once conscious, HL felt a lubricated metal object penetrating his anus. HL then felt something like skin penetrating him, moving in and out for about 5 minutes. Afterwards, Telly took off HL's blindfold and forced him to the top bunk of the bed, followed by Telly warning HL.
Bro, this the second time we heard something like this, bro. That Draco the Ruler one, that was even more crazy because that was peanut butter and a broomstick. But they said something metal? Bro, I ain't gonna lie. People that do stuff to kids, they do deserve that. But no, bro, at the end of the day, that is still wild, bro. The bull off of Boondocks used to be, y'all ever watch the Boondocks? What's that nigga name? Bro, y'all know the light skin bull, the one that be acting scary. He's so scared of jail. Like that dude, y'all know who I'm talking about.
How about Telly warning HL that he would hurt him if he said it?
Hold up, I don't even know what we talk about no more.
And forced him to the top bunk of the bed.
One more time.
Afterwards, Telly took off HL's blindfold and forced him to the top bunk of the bed, followed by Telly warning HL that he would hurt him if he said anything.
You know, the man knocked me out. And when I came to, you know, it was pretty much over and done with.
About 2 hours after that, Telly pulls HL back down from the bunk bed and ordered HL to orally copulate him and threatened to hurt him again if he didn't comply. Initially, HL refused, so Telly slapped him and hit him until he was almost unconscious. Telly then stuck his penis into HL's mouth and ejaculated. He then put HL back on the top bunk and went to sleep. The next morning, Telly ordered HL to pull his pants down and threatened to kill HL if he didn't have with him. Then,
bro, can he yell for a guard or something? This is insane. Bro, oh my God.
Pulls off HL's clothes, blindfolds him again with the sheet, and tied up his hands. Followed by him bending over HL and penetrating him again for another 5 to 10 minutes. Telly then turned HL to face him and again ordered HL to orally copulate him. He put his penis in HL's mouth for 5 to 10 minutes and then he ejaculated, forcing HL to swallow. Afterwards, Telly lifted HL into the top bunk, threatening to beat him if he said anything. The next day, HL reported what had happened to correctional officers when he left his cell for a psychiatric appointment. Here's the thing,
bro.
HL requested to be housed with Telly because they were the same race. But he didn't realize the reason he was in prison would be the same reason he had his manhood taken. That's because HL was in prison for child molestation. He was a convicted pedophile. And the one thing most prisoners have in common, regardless of race, is the mutual hatred for these weak cowards. So if Telly didn't get to him, somebody eventually would. But back to the story. Forensic nurse examiner Helen Withers examined HL.
He deserved it. That's what I'm gonna say.
At the Antelope Valley Hospital on February 29th of 2008. HL reported that he had been assaulted by his cellmate on February 27th and the 28th. HL had bruisings, swellings, and discoloration on several areas of his body, including his face, outer thigh, and he had a laceration on his anus. On top of that, he had ruptured vessels from some hitting the back of the roof of his mouth repeatedly. Withers then took a sample of HL's blood, completed a sexual assault kit, and collected HL's shirt and boxer shorts. Jamie Dougherty, a senior criminalist at the Los Angeles County Department Crime Lab, received the sexual assault kit collected from the telly. Dougherty analyzed semen taken from HL's shirt and boxer shorts. One of the semen stains from the boxer shorts contained a mixture of DNA. A major contributor matched Latelli's DNA profile. So following the match, a correctional officer interviewed Latelli and HL on February 29th of 2008. Latelli stated, "I never assaulted that dude. He was taking a shit, and when I pulled the curtain back, he had his hand by his butt and his hand by his front. I grabbed him and threw him on the floor." Also saying, "I did not I just beat his ass." During the trial, Latelli testified on his own behalf, saying he was a member of the Sons Samoa Crips and HL belonged to the Tiny Rascal gang.
Whoa! Who was on what side? And the fact that hold on, bro. Let's
saying he was a member of the Sons Samoa Crips.
So he SCA in them, the one that did the bending.
And HL belonged to the Tiny Rascal gang.
And the one got it bent is from TRG,
which is a rival with the Sons of Samoa on the street. But in prison, the gangs put their rivalry aside. Latelli, who claimed he was bisexual, said he and HL had a consensual sexual relationship, maintaining that HL initiated their first sexual encounter.
Bro, he needed DP though, bro. That's still insane work, bro.
Saying the two men had intercourse 3 to 4 times a day when they shared a cell. On top of that, he claims things played out differently than how HL told. Saying HL told Latelli he faked a suicide to get into a better prison program. Latelli warned HL not to attempt suicide while they were being cell together, because in the event of a suicide attempt, bars would spray the entire cell with mix, ruin his belongings. 2 days later, a correctional officer told Latelli that he had tried to kill himself. But the correctional officer did not spray down his cell because he wanted to give Latelli the opportunity to talk to HL first. Latelli confronted HL and told him that if he planned to continue the attempts, he needed to move to another cell. HL said he didn't plan to stop, so Latelli asked to have HL removed. HL was then taken to another cell. But 4 days later, a correctional officer told Latelli that HL wanted to return, and Latelli agreed after HL promised to stop the suicide attempt. So HL returned to Latelli's cell on February 25th of 2008.
Bro,
and they
what?
resumed their sexual relationship. And 2 days after HL...
Oh my... This story has became completely out of pocket at this point, bro. What is going on? What? Hold on, bro.
The cell. But 4 days later, after HL promised to stop the suicide attempt. So HL returned to Latelli's cell on February 25th of 2008. And they resumed their sexual relationship. But 2 days after HL returned, a correctional officer told Latelli your cellmate's no good. He gave Latelli's HL's rap sheet to show that HL was in prison for child molestation. And as a Son of Samoa gang member, Latelli had the duty to kill HL when he learned that he was a child molester. If he didn't try to kill HL, he could be killed by fellow gang members for failing to take action. When Latelli confronted HL, he said that he committed a drug offense. But already knowing the truth, Latelli slaps HL, knocking him to the ground. But HL quickly stood back up. So Latelli hit him again really hard in the leg, and HL falls again. Later down the line, Latelli testified that he contemplated many ways of killing HL, saying, "I wanted the quickest elimination," acknowledging that he was concerned about the consequences he would face, but knew that he had to seriously injure HL, with him quoted saying, "I was trying to figure out a way to hurt him or I wouldn't have to kill him, but hurt him enough so my people would hear that I did enough damage to him. But at the same time, if I do catch a case, I wouldn't get life, you know? Because I was looking right around the corner to go home." He eventually decided to stab HL, but HL left the cell that next morning before Latelli had time to get a weapon. Ultimately, Latelli was sentenced to an intermediate life term under the 3 strikes law. Once again, man, this one is fuck.
And he ended up getting an L. Oh my, this is just so crazy.
It's crazy. I read it before, but it was still hard reading this motherfucker. Man, it left me with little words in terms of what the fuck played out. Man, Latelli took this nigga manhood and a lot more. But at the same time, once again, I don't have any sympathy for molester. Your stupid ass got yourself into this situation. Just like the victim has to face a lifetime knowing you took advantage of him or her, now you get to live with that same feeling. What do y'all think though? Was justice served in this situation, or could it got a lot worse? Honestly, when it comes to kids and taking their innocence, I don't have any sympathy for you niggas. Y'all can in hell as far as I'm concerned. But that's just my opinion. This situation played out with a Tiny Rascal member in jail in an SOS crib. And while in jail, aside from taking care of weirdos, they put these issues aside due to them falling under the same letters and umbrella. We know well at this point that on the streets, the Sea Alliance and the Tiny Rascals have one of the most deadly rivalries in California. But hey, gang, what do y'all think about these stories? Did it involve a lot of overkill, or is it no limit to how you pursue your enemies? Were these situations shocking to you, or just another day in your environment? And if you're local or shit, even beyond that, y'all got any?
Yeah, though, bro, he done. But yeah, bro. With that being said, this was that Tiny Rascal gang versus Asian Boys Crips and the SCA Alliance, man. This story was crazy. I'm not gonna lie. He ain't really do too much recent, so I guess you're gonna have to find another one. But yeah, though, bro. If you enjoyed that, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, hit that noti. But I'm gonna catch y'all next one. I'm out this, y'all.
Chains in these watches, boy, we real ice. Hands out the window, bam, 10 and a pair of Nikes. Bustin' balls, I'm in Cali every week with it. Brody, what I told you about.